AITA for raising my nephew as my son because my sister didn't want him, and now my niece is jealous of him? I, 42F, never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here I am. I'll try to provide as much context as possible to paint the full picture. My sister, Sarah, 40F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We're only 2 years apart, but growing up, we couldn't have been more different. I was the responsible, studious one, while Sarah was wild and rebellious. Our parents struggled with her behavior, and I often felt like I had to be the perfect child to make up for it. To give you an idea of how different we were, by the time I was 17, I was taking AP classes, volunteering at the local animal shelter, and applying to colleges. Sarah, at 15, was already sneaking out, drinking, and dating guys much older than her. Our parents were at their wits' end, constantly arguing about how to handle Sarah's behavior. I remember one particularly bad night when I was 18 and home for the weekend from my first semester of college. Sarah, then 16, stumbled in at 3 a.m., clearly drunk. Our father started yelling, Sarah screamed back, and our mother just sat at the kitchen table, crying silently. I felt helpless, torn between wanting to comfort my parents and trying to reason with my sister. That night was a turning point for me. I realized that no matter how perfect I tried to be, I couldn't fix our family's problems. When Sarah was 19, she got pregnant. It wasn't planned, and she was in no position to raise a child. She was still partying hard and had just dropped out of community college. Our parents were furious and disappointed. Sarah considered abortion but ultimately decided to keep the baby. I think part of her decision was fueled by her desire to prove our parents wrong, to show them she could be responsible. I was 21 at the time, in my final year of college. I remember the day Sarah told me she was pregnant. We met at a small cafe near my campus and she blurted it out before I even sat down. She looked terrified and defiant all at once. I hugged her, and for a moment, we were just sisters again, not the polar opposites we'd become. Enter Jake, 21 and now. He was born on a rainy Tuesday in April, and from the moment I held him, I knew my life would never be the same. Sarah struggled with postpartum depression and couldn't seem to bond with Jake. She'd leave him crying for hours, forget to feed him, and generally seemed overwhelmed and disinterested in being a mother. I'd visit as often as I could, trying to help. I'd clean Sarah's apartment, do laundry, and care for Jake. Our parents tried to help too, but Sarah would often lash out at them, accusing them of judging her. It was a tense, unhappy time for everyone. One day, when Jake was about 2 months old, I arrived at Sarah's apartment to find him alone, crying in his crib. The apartment was a mess, and there was no sign of Sarah. I called her frantically, only to have her answer from what sounded like a party, slurring that she needed a break and would be back soon. I was furious and terrified. After 3 months of watching my nephew suffer, I couldn't take it anymore. I offered to take Jake for a while to give Sarah a break. She agreed without hesitation, and that while turned into weeks, then months. Taking care of Jake wasn't easy. I had just graduated college and was starting my first real job. Balancing work and caring for an infant was exhausting. There were nights I'd cry from fatigue, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. But then Jake would smile at me, or grasp my finger with his tiny hand, and I knew I'd do anything for him. By the time Jake was a year old, it was clear that Sarah had no intention of taking him back. She'd visit occasionally, but she treated him more like a nephew than a son. Our parents were getting older and couldn't handle raising another child, so I made the decision to officially become Jake's guardian. The legal process was lengthy and emotionally draining. Sarah initially resisted, accusing me of trying to steal her baby. But when faced with the reality of taking Jake back full-time, she backed down. I'll never forget the day she signed the papers, how her hand shook as she scribbled her name. She looked at me with a mixture of relief and resentment that I still see in her eyes sometimes. It wasn't easy. I was 23, single, and just starting my career. But I loved Jake more than I ever thought possible. I threw myself into being the best mom I could be. We had our struggles, but watching him grow into a kind, intelligent young man has been the greatest joy of my life. Those early years were a whirlwind. I learned to balance work, childcare, and my own needs through a lot of trial and error. I was fortunate to have supportive friends who would babysit, coworkers who understood when I needed flexibility, and parents who, while still dealing with their own complicated feelings about the situation, helped when they could. Jake was a curious, energetic child. He started walking early and was always getting into everything. I baby-proofed my small apartment as best I could, but he still managed to find new and creative ways to give me heart attacks. I remember one time when he was about 2, I turned my back for a second while cooking, only to find him somehow on top of the refrigerator when I turned back around. To this day, I have no idea how he managed it. As Jake grew, I made sure to enroll him in various activities to help him socialize and discover his interests. He tried soccer, not a fan, piano lessons, loved it, and karate, became passionate about it. I'd sit through countless recitals and tournaments, cheering him on and feeling my heart swell with pride. Sarah, meanwhile, got her act together somewhat. She met a guy, got married, and had another child when Jake was 5. My niece, Emma, 16F, became the daughter Sarah always wanted. She doted on Emma, giving her everything she never gave Jake. I remember the day Sarah told me she was pregnant with Emma. We met for coffee, and she was glowing with excitement. She talked about all her plans for the baby, how she was going to do everything right this time. I felt a mix of emotions, happiness for her, hope that she had truly changed, but also a deep sadness for Jake and the mother he never really had. I tried to maintain a relationship with Sarah and Emma. We'd have family dinners, celebrate holidays together, and I made sure Jake knew who his birth mother was. But it was always awkward. Sarah would lavish attention on Emma while barely acknowledging Jake. It broke my heart, but I did my best to shield Jake from the pain of his mother's rejection. There was one Christmas when Jake was about 8 and Emma was 3. Sarah had bought Emma a mountain of presents, dolls, toys, new clothes. For Jake, she'd gotten a generic gift card. I saw the hurt in Jake's eyes, though he tried to hide it. That night, after we'd gone home, Jake asked me why his Aunt Sarah didn't love him as much as Emma. I held him as he cried, assuring him that he was loved beyond measure, even if not by the person he wished would love him. As the years went by, Jake thrived. He excelled in school, made lots of friends, and became an amazing athlete. I was at every game, every school event, cheering him on. Sarah rarely showed up, always making excuses about being busy with Emma's activities. Jake's academic success was particularly impressive to me. Despite the emotional challenges he faced, he threw himself into his studies with a determination that amazed me. In middle school, he joined the debate team and quickly became one of their star members. I'd help him practice his arguments at home, often learning new things myself in the process. One of my proudest moments was when Jake won a statewide essay contest in his freshman year of high school. The topic was what family means to me, and Jake wrote a beautiful piece about chosen family and the power of love over biology. He didn't mention Sarah or Emma by name, but he talked about the strength he found in accepting that family isn't always what you expect it to be. I cried when I read it, overwhelmed by his maturity and insight. Emma, on the other hand, struggled. She had learning difficulties and behavioral problems. Sarah spent a fortune on tutors and therapists, trying to give Emma every advantage. But the more Sarah pushed, the more Emma rebelled. I tried to be there for Emma too, offering to help with homework or just to lend an ear. But Sarah often interfered, saying she could handle her own daughter. I sensed that Sarah saw my offers of help as criticism of her parenting, a reminder of her failures with Jake. There was an incident when Emma was about 12 that really highlighted the issues. Emma had been caught shoplifting at a local mall. Sarah called me in tears, not knowing what to do. I offered to talk to Emma, to share some of the techniques I'd used with Jake when he went through a rebellious phase. Sarah initially agreed, but when I arrived at their house, she changed her mind. She accused me of trying to show her up, of trying to prove I was a better mother. It turned into a huge argument, with Emma listening from the top of the stairs. I left feeling frustrated and worried about both Sarah and Emma. Now, here's where things get complicated. Jake recently got accepted to an Ivy League school on a full academic scholarship. I'm bursting with pride, all his hard work has paid off. When I shared the news with Sarah, I expected her to be happy for her son. Instead, she seemed annoyed. The day we found out about Jake's acceptance was surreal. Jake had been anxiously checking his email every few minutes, and when the message finally came, his shout of joy echoed through the house. My husband, I got married when Jake was 10 to a wonderful man who loves Jake as his own, and I rushed to his room to find him staring at his computer screen in disbelief. We celebrated that night with Jake's favorite meal and a video call to my parents. Everyone was ecstatic, sharing in Jake's achievement. I sent a text to Sarah, thinking she'd want to know. Her response was a curt "that's nice." I tried to brush it off, not wanting anything to dampen Jake's excitement. A few days later, Sarah called me in tears. She said Emma was devastated about Jake's success. Apparently, Emma had always felt like she was living in Jake's shadow, even though they barely interacted. Sarah accused me of favoring Jake and giving him opportunities that Emma never had. I was shocked. I pointed out that I had raised Jake because she didn't want him, and that she had every opportunity to be involved in his life. I also reminded her that she had given Emma everything while barely acknowledging Jake's existence. The conversation quickly devolved into a shouting match. Sarah brought up old grievances, accusing me of always trying to one-up her, of stealing her chance to be a mother. I countered by reminding her of all the times she'd let Jake down, of the birthdays and school events she'd missed. We both said hurtful things, dredging up years of resentment and pain. Sarah then dropped a bombshell. She said that now that Jake was an adult, it was time for him to know the truth about his parentage. She wanted to tell him that she was his real mother and that I had stolen him from her. She thought this would make Emma feel better, knowing that Jake wasn't really my son. I was furious. I told Sarah that if she dared to try and disrupt Jake's life with this nonsense, I would cut her off completely. Jake knows I'm not his biological mother, we've always been open about that. But I am his mom in every way that matters, and I won't let Sarah's jealousy and guilt ruin the relationship we've built. The idea of Sarah trying to rewrite history infuriated me. We'd had a DNA test done years ago when Jake needed his tonsils out, so there was no question about his parentage. But DNA doesn't make a parent, love, care, and dedication do. I've been there for every skin knee, every nightmare, every triumph and disappointment. I've sat through parent-teacher conferences, helped with science fair projects, and taught him to drive. Sarah's attempt to claim motherhood now, after years of disinterest, felt like a slap in the face to both Jake and me. Now, Sarah is threatening to tell Emma everything and encourage her to reach out to Jake as her real brother. She says it's not fair that Jake gets to go to a better college than Emma, who is struggling to get into any college, and that as his real mom, she should have a say in his future. This threat has thrown our family into chaos. I'm worried about how this will affect Jake, who's excited about college and doesn't need this drama. I'm also concerned about Emma, who's being used as a pawn in Sarah's game. And I'm angry that Sarah thinks she can waltz back into Jake's life and claim a relationship she never bothered to build. I'm at a loss. I've spent the last 21 years raising Jake, loving him, and trying to protect him from the pain of his mother's rejection. I've also tried to maintain a relationship with my sister and niece, despite the challenges. But now I feel like everything is falling apart. AITA for raising my nephew as my son and giving him opportunities that my niece didn't have? Should I have pushed Sarah to be more involved in Jake's life? Am I wrong for threatening to cut off contact if Sarah tries to disrupt Jake's life with her version of the truth? Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your kind words and support. I've read through all the comments, it took a while, and I wanted to address some common questions and provide an update. 1. Jake's biological father, he's never been in the picture. Sarah doesn't even know who he is for sure. It was a one-night stand at a party, and she never got his full name or contact information. We've discussed the possibility of finding him over the years, but Jake has never shown much interest. He says he already has a dad, my husband, and doesn't feel the need to search for his biological father. 2. Legal status. I legally adopted Jake when he was 3. Sarah willingly signed away her parental rights. This was done with the help of a lawyer and is all official. We have all the paperwork, including the original birth certificate and the amended one after the adoption. Sarah can't legally claim any parental rights at this point. 3. Jake's relationship with Sarah and Emma. Jake knows Sarah is his biological mother, but he's always called me Mom. He calls Sarah Aunt Sarah and treats Emma like a cousin. They've never been close, but he's always been polite and kind to them. There have been times when Jake has expressed hurt or confusion about Sarah's behavior, but we've always talked through these feelings openly. 4. Emma's struggles. A lot of you have expressed concern for Emma. I agree that she's a victim in this situation too. I've tried to be a good aunt to her over the years, but Sarah has always kept her at arm's length from me. Emma has dyslexia and ADHD, which have made school challenging for her. Sarah's pressure for her to perform academically hasn't helped. I wish I could do more to support Emma, but Sarah's hostility makes it difficult. 5. My relationship status. Some asked if I'm married or have other children. I did get married when Jake was 10 to a wonderful man who loves Jake as his own. We have 2 younger children together, 8F and 6M. Jake is an amazing big brother to them. Our family dynamic is beautiful, and Jake has never felt like he doesn't belong. My husband legally adopted Jake as well, so he has 2 legal parents who adore him. 6. Family therapy. Many of you suggested family therapy. We actually tried this a few years ago, but Sarah stopped attending after 2 sessions, claiming the therapist was biased against her. Jake and I have done some therapy together over the years to work through his feelings about his birth mother and our unique family situation. It's been incredibly helpful. 7. Financial aspects. Some asked about child support. Sarah never paid any, and I never pursued it. When I adopted Jake, we agreed that I would take full financial responsibility for him. I didn't want money to be another point of contention between us. Update. After reading your comments and doing a lot of thinking, I decided to talk to Jake about everything. I wanted him to hear it from me before Sarah potentially stirred up drama. I sat Jake down last night and told him about Sarah's threats and Emma's feelings. He was upset but not surprised. He said he's always felt the tension with Sarah and Emma, but he never wanted to make things worse by addressing it. Jake then told me something that brought me to tears. He said, "Mom, I've known since I was old enough to understand that you chose me. Aunt Sarah might have given birth to me, but you're my real mom. You wanted me when no one else did. I wouldn't be who I am without you." We talked for hours about his feelings growing up, the challenges of our unusual family dynamic, and his hopes for the future. Jake shared some memories that broke my heart, like the time he overheard Sarah telling Emma that she was lucky to have a real mom who wanted her. He was only 8 at the time and said he cried himself to sleep that night. But he also talked about the countless happy memories we've shared, family vacations, holiday traditions, and simple everyday moments that made him feel loved and secure. Jake expressed concern for Emma, recognizing that she's also a victim of Sarah's behavior. He said he's always tried to be kind to Emma, but Sarah's attitude made it difficult for them to form a real sibling bond. He's open to having a relationship with Emma if she wants one, but he has no interest in changing his relationship with Sarah. He sees her as an aunt, nothing more. We discussed his feelings about going to college and being away from home for the first time. Jake admitted he's nervous but excited. He said he feels prepared because of the independence and responsibility I've encouraged in him over the years. We talked about how we'll stay in touch, weekly video calls, care packages, and visits when possible. The conversation then turned to Sarah's threat to tell Emma everything. Jake was calm about it, saying, "Mom, there's nothing to tell. Everyone who matters knows the truth. You're my mom, Dad's my dad, and that's all there is to it." I was so proud of Jake's maturity and insight. We ended the night with a long hug, both of us teary-eyed but feeling stronger in our bond than ever. As for Sarah, I called her this morning. I told her in no uncertain terms that if she tries to disrupt Jake's life or manipulate Emma with her version of events, she will no longer be welcome in our lives. I explained that Jake and I had talked, and he has no desire to change their current relationship. I also suggested that Emma might benefit from therapy to deal with her feelings of inadequacy, which seemed to stem more from Sarah's parenting than from Jake's success. I offered to help find a good therapist or to pay for sessions if money was an issue. I wanted to make it clear that while I won't tolerate Sarah's behavior, I still care about Emma's well-being. Sarah didn't take it well. She accused me of turning Jake against her and ruining her chance to be a mother to her real son. She brought up old grievances, claiming I had always been the favorite daughter and that I stole her chance at happiness. I stood my ground, reminding her of the choices she made and the opportunities she had to be part of Jake's life over the years. The conversation got heated, with Sarah threatening to tell everyone her side of the story. I calmly informed her that we have all the legal documentation of Jake's adoption and that any attempt to slander me or disrupt Jake's life could result in legal action. I hated to take such a hard line, but I felt I had to protect my family. I'm sad that it's come to this, but I feel a sense of relief. Jake knows he's loved and supported, and I know I've done right by him. Thank you all for helping me see that I'm not the asshole in this situation. To those of you who shared similar stories of non-traditional families and adoption, thank you. Your experiences and words of encouragement mean more than you know. And to the person who asked, yes, we're having a big celebration for Jake's graduation and acceptance to college. Sarah and Emma will not be invited, but Jake's dad, my husband, siblings, grandparents, and friends will all be there to cheer him on. Thank you, Reddit. You've helped me more than you know. Final update. It's been a whirlwind few weeks since my last update, and I wanted to share what's happened because so many of you have been invested in our story. First, Jake's graduation was amazing. He gave a speech as valedictorian that had me in tears. Okay, I was ugly crying. He talked about the power of chosen family and how love is thicker than blood. I know he was talking about us, and I've never been prouder. In his speech, Jake said, family isn't just about shared DNA. It's about the people who show up every day, who support you through triumphs and failures, who love you unconditionally. I'm fortunate to have found that kind of family, and it shaped me into the person I am today. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. Sarah showed up uninvited to the ceremony. She tried to make a scene, yelling that she was Jake's real mother and demanding to be recognized. Jake's dad, my husband, and some of our friends managed to escort her out before she could ruin the day. Jake was shaken but handled it with grace. He told me later that her actions only reinforced his feelings about who his true family is. The incident with Sarah was upsetting, but it led to an unexpected positive outcome. Several of Jake's classmates and their parents witnessed Sarah's behavior and rallied around us. We received an outpouring of support from the community, with many people sharing their own stories of non-traditional families and adoption. It was heartwarming to see how many people understood and supported our situation. Now, here's the twist I didn't see coming. Emma reached out to Jake directly. She sent him a long email apologizing for her mom's behavior and explaining her own feelings. Turns out, Emma has been struggling with Sarah's obsession with Jake for years. Sarah would constantly compare Emma to Jake, always finding Emma lacking. Emma admitted she was jealous of Jake's success, but not because she felt entitled to it. She was jealous of the relationship Jake and I have. In her email, Emma wrote, I always wished Mom would love me the way your mom loves you. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel bad or unwelcome. I hope you can forgive me, and maybe we can try to have a real relationship as siblings. Jake was touched by Emma's honesty and bravery in reaching out. He responded with kindness and understanding, sharing some of his own struggles and feelings about their complicated family dynamic. They've been texting and talking on the phone regularly now. They're building a relationship on their own terms, without Sarah's interference. Emma even asked Jake if he would help her with her college applications. She's interested in community college programs for special education, inspired by the teachers who helped her with her learning difficulties. Jake has been tutoring her in some subjects and helping her explore different career options. It's beautiful to see them supporting each other. As for Sarah, she's not taking any of this well. She's been spreading lies on social media about how I stole her son and turned him against her. Most of our family and friends know the truth, but it's still hurtful to see. We're considering legal action if she doesn't stop, but we're hoping it won't come to that. We've had to block Sarah on all our social media accounts and have asked family members not to share information about Jake with her. It's sad that it's come to this, but we feel it's necessary for our peace of mind and Jake's well-being as he starts this new chapter of his life. On a happier note, Jake is excited about starting college in the fall. He's planning to major in social work, inspired by his own experiences. He wants to help other kids in difficult family situations. I couldn't be more proud of the man he's become. We've been busy preparing for his move to college. Shopping for dorm supplies, discussing budgeting and time management, and talking about how to handle homesickness. It's bittersweet. I'm thrilled for his new adventure, but I know I'm going to miss him terribly. We've already planned our first parents' weekend visit and set up a schedule for regular video chats. Jake's younger siblings are having mixed feelings about him leaving. They're proud of their big brother, but sad that he won't be around as much. We've been involving them in the college prep process and talking about how we'll stay connected as a family even with Jake away at school. To the Redditor who suggested I write a book about our experiences, I'm actually considering it. So many people have reached out with similar stories, and I think there's value in sharing how non-traditional families can thrive with love and commitment. I've started jotting down memories and reflections, and who knows, maybe it will turn into something more. Thank you all again for your support, advice, and kind words. This experience has been challenging, but it's also reinforced what I've always known: family is about love, not biology. Jake is my son in every way that matters, and no one can take that away from us. To anyone out there struggling with family drama or non-traditional family structures, hang in there. Love fiercely, set boundaries when needed, and remember that family is what you make it. Your chosen family can be just as strong, if not stronger, than any biological ties. P.S. Jake just texted me a selfie from his new dorm room. He's smiling ear to ear, and the text says, "Thanks for everything, Mom. I love you." And just like that, I'm crying again. But they're happy tears this time.